I'm very pleased to have as my special guest today, Rachel Vaughan, the co-founder of Ley Love Down. Rachel, how you doing?
Oh, good, thank you. Lovely to have you to be here and to have me on.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you on, and it's wonderful on Kind of Sound. It's like a global community media channel. So we love to get people on from all around the world, and you are dialing in today from down under. And how is it down in Australia at the moment? How's
A
life?
little, a little dry in South Australia. We've had a little bit of rain recently, but there's a bit of a drought going on, so that's a bit harsh,
Yeah,
for all plants. It's a bit hard, but I'm sure we're going to get some rain soon. We're just coming out of summer, so we're coming into autumn, and it's usually pretty rainy.
absolutely. It's a fascinating thing. I spent a bit of time in Australia, and as we move into spring equinox coming up soon, and we've got a fantastic mission. I hope you guys can join in with. We're doing this Sing for Peace and Healing. We're going to be singing all day from sunrise to sunset, sending
Oh,
the
wow.
healing. We do these perpetual choirs events, so it'll be 12 hours of singing. And of course, whilst we're on spring equinox, you've got autumn equinox.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. Singing is so powerful. It's such a wonderful thing to go out in nature and actually ululate or sing or dance or just express joy in any way. It actually helps the plants. It certainly helps the ley lines. Our
Yeah.
indigenous people here, our original Australians, are very much into dance and there's certain country that you're supposed to sit on, and there's certain country that you do your ceremony on, and then you leave because you've got to sort of show reverence. So that's exciting. I sing in a choir as well because I know how important this is, and it helps to not to have some sort of harmony involved. If it's not harmonious sound, it can be rather unpleasant.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly be singing some beautiful harmonies, our Perpetual Choirs Collective. So here to talk about Ley Love Down. Now, I've been interacting with the ley lines for healing purposes for probably 25 years. It's kind of
Wow.
my life with the World Healing Project. So it's wonderful to connect with other people who are also, share the passion that I do. And the tagline here, I'm just going to give you the website kind of sound as it's leylovedown.com. And I love this. The Ley Love Down Project. Save the ley lines, save the world. So just fill that out for me a little bit.
So this is so Ben, my co-founder, and I, we had an interview. Ben has the Wake Up, an interview series, and he's just basically trying to help people to wake up to what's going on in the world. We had an interview, and I was talking about, some very in-depth things. I had a pretty messy childhood, and there were things that were done in the ley line crossings that were not so pleasant, and I won't necessarily go into that. But when we were discussing this, I think something must have fired off for Ben. So he then sort of came up with this idea, do you want to work together and put together this movement? And he coined the phrase "save the ley lines, save the world," and it's a very very intelligent thing to do. So apparently actually there are in the book of Revelations there's talk about the ley lines are like the last fight. So I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not interested in organized religion, but it's just fascinating to see we're at this very interesting part of humanity's ascendance, I suppose you might describe it. Some people might say it's going in the opposite direction. I'm very optimistic and I see us rising. And at the same time, we've got a lot of people, yeah, really suddenly realizing the importance of ley lines in the Western world. Original peoples across the world have always understood the importance of ley lines, song lines, dream lines. But it's the Western world that's suddenly waking up to it. And I'm impressed. 25 years is a pretty good effort. I've been awake to them for about 12.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in England in the late 70s, there was a guy called Colin Bloy, and he was a healer, and he got into dowsing and understood that you could dowse for oil or water pipes or gold or whatever. And then he had this idea. He'd read John Michel's book, The View Over Atlantis, where John had talked about these invisible lines of power across the landscape. He kind of revitalized the idea of ley lines in the late 60s. And Colin thought, well, if we can dowse for oil, surely we can dowse for a ley line. So he went out in the Sussex countryside where he lived, and there was a like a standing stone, and he picked up a ley line. So he followed it, and then it went to a mound, and then it went to a like a crossroads, these ancient marker points of these lasers, according to Alfred Watkins, and then he follows it, this dowsable energy lay, and then it ended up at the Conservative Party headquarters in Brighton, and he thought, hold on, we were told that it was ancient places. What is the Conservative Party headquarters doing on this ley line? So that got him into all this thing, and his thing was very much, I think, the same mission that you guys have got, about healing, about raising planetary consciousness, about bringing well-being and healing to the land through the focus on of love, of the visualization of pure light, of sound. He did experiments with sound and how that affected the ley lines. And this guy was one of the greatest dowsers in the world, and travelled the world dowsing the lays and
Wow.
seeing how human consciousness and interaction, particularly group meditation, group activity, conscious group activity, would incredibly expand the lays, and started this experiment in Brighton called the Fountain, which became Fountain International, and it spread all around the world. So it's wonderful when, completely independently of this, of this knowledge, of this origin, that these things are springing up all over the world. People are naturally,
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And people know, there's this an innate knowing of, if you work on these things together, if there's a collective consciousness that does it together, it makes it much easier. So that's why, I'm a big fan of Rory Duff. He's done a lot of work on,
yes,
getting these amazing, I'm so excited to hear about your singing adventure. You're going to do that all day long, and infuse this beautiful frequency. Were you aware that Rory Duff had also said that we basically came into permanent harmony time at the end of last year, which is very unusual. So all of the ley lines normally would, as you would know, harmonize at the equinoxes and solstices, but
mm,
we are actually in permanent harmony time now, which is monumental. I don't think enough people recognize how significant that is. So, as I was saying before, with this biblical Revelations statement about the ley lines, that being the last fight, we are literally in a shift at the moment that is absolutely, it's fundamental to where we're going. I think a lot of people who listen to you or watch you would probably understand that we've been through a bit of a fight. Last few years have been 4 or 5 years have been pretty intense. So we're
yeah,
going I see it, a very positive direction. I think humanity's waking up to our innate abilities, our innate psychic abilities. We also do group meditations twice a month with Ley Love Down. It makes you feel very heartened when you realize that people will join a movement like that,
yeah.
to really, because they recognize the significance and how important it is and how we can actually make a difference.
100%. Yeah, Rory Duff. Just a big shout out to Rory. He's a friend of mine, and he's been quite unwell, physically unwell. So we do on every solstice and equinox, the day before, uh, inspired by Rory's kind of understanding. We have these perpetual choirs. I mean, I've been into this perpetual choir movement for for 20 years, and we have a musical project called the Perpetual Choirs, and we travel the world and sing and encourage it. And we do this thing called Sing for Peace, which is on the equinoxes and the solstices, where we'll do these long perpetual choirs. But this time around, it's called Sing for Peace and Healing. And I'm particularly dedicating my efforts to Rory on that's going to be on Thursday, from sunrise to sunset, to send that great man the healing vibe, because he's really taken on the mantle of this guy who started moving things along in the UK, Colin Bloy. And Rory, what a man. He really has spread the word, and it's great that he's inspired you as well. So yeah, sing for peace and healing this time around. So I'll after this interview, I'll email you the flyer that we're doing, and just trying to encourage people, if you can sing for a few minutes or a few hours, or like me, you'll be singing all day. One of the projects we did, when we launched the Unity album, the Perpetual Choir's Unity album, I thought, well, how am I going to launch this album? What would be a good way to launch the album? So we went to Glastonbury, on May Day. And in England, we have the St. Michael alignment. And where I live here in Suffolk, it's just the St. Michael alignment is just yonder from where we live.
Oh, wow.
And we started singing at sunrise. And there's all the hippies on Glastonbury tour, hundreds of people. And I thought, how are we going to get them going? Mother, I feel you under my feet. So we're getting all the hippies joining in, hundreds of people. And then I kept singing and we travelled to sacred sites up the Ley. And I sang it's my personal record for 15 and a half hours, continuous singing to near where we live, which is Bury St Edmunds, which had one of the greatest abbeys in medieval times, where the Michael and Mary lines come together in the abbey there. So we sung all the way up the Ley. I thought, well, that was a good album launch.
Oh,
A little bit.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was a little bit. I was sending some love to the Leys that day. A little bit hoarse afterwards, but it's just to encourage that again. It's encouraging that again. And I was in India. We used to live in India, and I was recording an album called One World, which took me 8 years. And I travelled to Australia, and I was working on this song called Mother Om. And
Yeah.
I got to Byron Bay, and I went to this music shop, and I said, I need to find a didge player. And they hooked me up with a guy called Cy Malumbi, one of the great didge players in the world. And he said to me, the didgeridoo is a perpetual om machine. It's a way of generating a perpetual vibration of intention. And I'd just come from a place called Gokana in India, and this guy had been there 20 years before, and he'd heard the cosmic om as a didgeridoo.
Oh, yeah,
And
wow.
it was a wonderful synchronicity how I'd come from there to Australia, and he'd done that same journey from Australia back to there and played on this song. And the understanding amongst the old folk, in your land of the song lines and of the interaction, it's never stopped, has it?
No, no, and I was actually at a conference, a cosmic consciousness conference at Uluru in December of last year to sort of, herald in this incredible, permanent harmony time of the ley lines. And that's actually at a crossing point of dragon lines, the most powerful. Obviously, you would know that. Of the ley lines, there's a massive sacred rock in the center, and that's called Uluru. And there was a gentleman called Rufus Rogie, and he was playing his didge in some of the sacred sites along around the rock, and it was just phenomenal to hear and to feel that vibration in that space. Australia is an incredibly sacred, beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of difficult energies here as well, and this is part of the reason why this is so important.
Yeah.
Encouraging people out into the ley lines, because as you mentioned before, you get these alignments, and they go to these places that you think, well, why would it go there? And are there secret societies operating in those spaces, and do they know about these alignments? And yeah, they do. They
They
do. The
do.
town
They do.
planners know about it. There's a place. I'm in South Australia. There's another state called Victoria, and there's a place called Fitzroy Gardens that has a massive pentagram in the gardens, like in the streetscape, or sort of the gardenscape where all the little paths go. And there's all these significant places all around it. There's the shrine and all these other, Masonic centers, 5 or 6 of them, plus other landmarks, a massive cathedral. The town planners know all about where the ley lines are and the crossing points, and the arenas that we have all look like large eyes in Australia. They know what they're doing. They're harnessing a lot of energy. So what we do with our collective consciousness, obviously, is we come in and we put the opposite in. We don't do the worship energy. We do the, love, kindness, sharing, beautiful sound. And it does make a difference. It really does. And there's a lot more of us than there are of them. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I love the quote in the Upanishads, and it says, even if a room has been dark for 1,000 years, then you open the doors and the light comes in and the darkness disappears.
Yeah, yeah,
Just that idea of bringing in the light, and being the love and beaming that out. And I mean, what a beautiful thing. But it's almost like what you guys are doing, and what we're doing with the World Healing Project. It's just trying to encourage people to engage with it and to join in with it. Because I'm going to do it anyway, right? So I'll be sitting in on Thursday singing all day. So I'm doing it anyway. And I think that's the best thing I can do is just do it myself and maybe try and lead by example, but communicating it and communicating the message. And I'm just going to give you the website again, kind of Sanders. It's leylovedown.com. It is a beautiful website. I mean,
It is.
congratulations. Lay love down where they cross. In the morning, it is time to rise. When we're done, they are done. I mean, the song, the whole thing that you're doing with Ben, I love the joining in as well. You know, getting people involved so they can. And I mean, how long did the website take to put together? It's beautiful.
Well, I mean, Ben started it off, and then this
Yeah,
beautiful volunteer came in, Cherie, and she finished it, and she's done such a fantastic job. And a shout out to all the volunteers that are part of Ley Love Down, because
yeah.
we couldn't do it without them. And we have a lot of volunteers that help. We've got the three Sarahs, beautiful women who come in and do the meditations twice a month, and we have events and people catching up, and it's a big thing what we're trying to do. So we at one point we were trying to map all the ley lines, the smaller ones, but that's a monumental task. What I do specifically is I teach people how to cite them, because we do have cryptochromes, just like insects and birds. We have these CRY2 cryptochromes, so we can see ley lines. So it's just a matter of working out how to sort of work out what they look like. And they look like, when you're standing in the cross section of a ley line, which when you're actually in it, and you're looking down it, you can see these perfect circles representing themselves multiple times along the trajectory of the ley. And so, I mean, I believe original people must have known this for
Yeah,
forever, because they see a lot of rock art with these perfect
yeah,
circles,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think they knew, but we're remembering
That's
now.
amazing.
So
So you can see the energy.
yeah, it's really
Wow.
obvious. And the beauty of it too is, once you learn the technique, it's not difficult. So it's a similar technique to reading an aura.
Yeah.
So you just let your eyes go out of focus. If you notice there's a circle there, you let your eyes go out of focus, you can see it much more clearly. So Kirlian photography, Walter Kilner, the father of Kirlian photography, taught, how to use relaxed vision. But cameras pick it up really well as well. Phone cameras, proper cameras, it doesn't really matter. That's how I first noticed them
Mm.
12 years ago. And I've been photographing them ever since. And then I started to teach people how to see them. So it's very exciting, because once you
Y-
know where they are, then you can go in them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's a wonderful story of when Hamish Miller, the great dowser, who he dowsed all over the world, and he with Paul Broadhurst did the Sun and the Serpent book, and he was trained by Colin Bloy from Fountain International and went all through South Africa dowsing and parts of Australia and New Zealand, and so they did this massive project. It took them 15 years where they doused the what they call the European St Michael line or the Apollo line, which goes from the west of Ireland through from Skellig St Michael through St Michael's Mount, Mont Saint Michel, and through France, Italy, through Delphi in Greece, and on to Armageddon in the Holy Land. And so it's like 3,000 miles of dowsing they did. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. So they released the book on St Michael's Day on St Michael's Mount,
Wow.
and there was the bit where it was in the dragon lines were out in the sea, so they'd like map doused it, and there was this I think it was a child, I don't know how old he was, but who was some kind of like he was like autistic or had some sort of special needs. And he said to Hamish, he was there, and he said, "You've got it wrong." He said, "Because you're saying it goes here," and he said, "I can see it." He could see that he's like, because Hamish
Yeah.
couldn't see it. But he was very good at like dowsing it. And I can feel it. I mean, I don't have the perception of sight. Maybe if I hung out with you more, I'd develop it.
It's not hard. It's
Yeah,
architecture easy. Yeah.
exactly. But I think that's the thing. I think that some skills, it's almost like this ability to transmit the skill.
Yeah.
Some people spontaneously will have it, but others can be, like. So I've hung out with these people who can feel it and douse it, whatever. But anyway, but it's just brilliant how this kid put him right, and he goes, "No, it actually goes this way."
And this is the thing. A lot of autistic kids, however they might become that way, are really psychic.
Yeah,
They might not be socially adept, but they've
yeah,
got other gifts and skills, so that, I mean, back in the day, they would have been the shamans or the medicine men or women or whatever, because they had those abilities, and they might not be able to go out and kill a kangaroo or whatever, but they'd be able to help people, heal people, see a
Yeah.
ley line. Yeah,
And that's the thing, isn't it? I think as well with this kind of work that you're doing, that I'm doing, it's like really trying to engage with people that everyone can get involved in this. You
yeah.
know, I love this. The mission: save the ley line, save the world. The method: balance the lays with positive energy, love. Result: dark energy is transmuted to light. I mean, that's just absolutely wonderful. When the fountain thing started in the late 70s and early 80s, there was these like gangs fighting the mods and the rockers,
Yeah, yeah,
and they were
yeah.
like smashing each other up, you know. And Colin Bloy said, look, we know that people can be healed, and if we focus on their centers, you know, their chakras, their hara points, we can direct the healing energy. He said, what about a community? What about if a community can suffer from dis-ease and be healed? So they picked the fountain, Queen Victoria's fountain, which is on this major junction of Leys in Brighton. They picked that as their focal point, as their hara. And the story goes that when the mods and rockers were going down to smash each other up, and it was a bank holiday, and there was sort of record violence, you know, predicted. So there was 100 people, and they all just focused the love, and they didn't, they just, that was it. It was, well, let's just focus love on the fountain. And when they doused it, and um they didn't intend this, but the energy flowed up the railway lines, and it flowed up the motorway. So what happened was when all these mods and rockers were coming down on their scooters or on the train, they or on the the roads, they were getting in this energy, and it lifted their energy. And they didn't intend this. It was like this innate intelligence of the Mother Earth. It
Yeah.
lifted their energy out of that root chakra adrenaline. Anyway, they came down, and the newspaper said Brighton too boring. And the bikers they did a few loops of the roundabout. They went home.
Because it's all about part of the color revolution, isn't it? To get these people to all fight amongst themselves. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and
That
it
can happen in any situation. Wars can be ameliorated through these sorts of behaviors.
100%. Yeah, I think it was about 10 years ago. The Ecuadorian army were being trained in meditation so
Wow.
that they could, project energy. And the
Yeah.
famous experiments done by the transcendental meditation movement, where groups of meditators, would lower violent crime rate by significant amounts. And I've written about this recently, saying, why aren't all police force and armies trained in these techniques? We need to get them on the Ley Love Down, don't we?
Yes. Yes,
We
we
need to
do.
get them on the we need to get them on this like healing vibration. So tell us a little bit more about the project and how people can get involved.
So we just encourage people to go. You don't necessarily have to see a ley line or douse for a ley line. When you go to places where there's water, and the fountain project you're just describing is a perfect example, when you focus your energy on water and it's a positive, loving frequency, that will also radiate out to, and Dr. Emoto's work shows that, it can make it even stronger. So it's a ripple effect. So if you can't find a ley line, just find a body of water and put
Yeah.
your energy on that. But it is, it's wonderful to be able to go out into nature and find these ley lines. So go out to where there's endemic forest, where nobody's necessarily cut all the trees down and
Mm.
planted them in rows, where it's all natural and symbiosis exists, and you've got a lot of things like that beautiful fungus, that mycelium that grows under the ground that connects everything. It's like their telecommunications center. Go out into nature and you'll find most of the paths, the natural paths going through nature, are ley lines. So where the ley lines run, they're like channels of energy, they're tunnels of energy, and the plants and trees, whether it's out of respect for the mother earth's energy, or they just don't like the frequency, they avoid it. So that's where you'll see a lot of ley lines. So get out into a space like that and take a 432 hertz frequency tuning fork, or take a musical instrument, tuned to a, um, sing, just express joy, dance if you want to dance, or just sit there and meditate with positive intention. with your bottom on the earth, so you're connecting in. All your chakras are aligned, and basically, it's about expressing joy. I mean, we see what you were talking about before about these alignments with all these specific buildings and arenas and things that are in them, and abattoirs are put in there as well. That's because those who you know, live in these secret societies, they know how to gather that energy. We're working against that. We're balancing and bringing it back to what it should be. And
Mm.
that's where we'll see our world ending up being a much better place. And these
Yeah,
beautiful little children that are being born now that have all these abilities that are, over that hump of the, Rory's, the permanent harmony of the ley lines. We're ushering in a whole new paradigm on Earth, a whole new generation of individuals coming in at really high soul frequencies. So we're like the parents needing to sort of clean things up a bit for these children that are coming in as well. So it's for the Earth, it's for these new generations, it's for all the animals.
yeah,
Everybody's interdependent on this planet.
yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the Earth herself is conscious. And that's something that saddens me because it's something that all original cultures understand.
Yeah.
But in the Western world, we've lost that, unfortunately.
But it is coming back, isn't it? It really is
Yeah,
coming back. That consciousness of the earth, of this. The earth is, in a sense, our collective consciousness, and the interaction with our individual or group efforts and how it can profoundly, profoundly affect things. And we do a singing group here, very informal thing, every couple of weeks. And there's like maybe 10, 12 people, and we're all singing, and we're all. It's nice to hear you talk about the 432 hertz. With you know, my last album, Unity, it was all produced in 432, which for a very an album with 200 singers and musicians on it was quite a feat to get them in 432. But we did it, and and it's like the effect it's created. I mean, we feel good, right? But actually, what's happening as those pebbles are dropped in, we don't really know. It's too it's too massive, But all we can do is our bit and trust and dedicate it to the greatest good of all, in accordance with divine will, and so may it be. Well, I mean, what a beautiful thing. I remember when I went to Australia, and I turned up at this music shop, and I was after the dig player, and I said, "Have you got any instruments in 432?" And he goes, "Well, mate," he goes, "all these ditches are 432 and all these flutes are. Oh, no, these ones aren't." And it was like a big shop, right?
wow.
And then I go to Glastonbury in England. I come back, I go to Glastonbury, which is the centre of the New Age in England. And I go in the sound healing shop, and I said, "Have you got any instruments in 432?" And they didn't know what I was talking about. Now, this just shows how
Oh,
disconnected people have become with the earth, with these natural
yeah,
resonant frequencies. Whereas in Australia, these instruments that were made from the earth, these flutes and didgers, it was natural that they would be attuned to that.
yeah.
So that was a bit, that was a bit of a shocker for me. But I mean, things are waking up, and uh, yeah, there's a lovely band called 432 in the UK now, and people are it's getting across from and I know in your beautiful song you've got
Yeah,
on the website, you can listen to this wonderful. Did Ben write that song?
he did write that song. Yes, he certainly did. Yeah. Yeah, I said, hey,
Be-
Ben, can you write us a song? Because I'm
yeah,
encouraging people to go into the ley lines. And that was part of the progression of how it all happened. And he
absolutely.
did a spectacular job.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
I look forward to meeting him. And maybe getting out on the land with our guitars. And if I ever come back to Australia, I'll do a bit of a tour and
Oh,
meet
I'd
up
love to
with
meet.
you.
Love
Yeah,
to
that
bring
would
you
be
around.
absolutely great. So, Rachel, just final words from you.
Thank you very much for having me on. And if people are interested in going to Ley Love Down, Ley, leylovedown.com, it's all free to join. We have, as I said, regular meditations. We have the 12:12 on a Thursday afternoon. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. 12:12, you sit down and meditate, think about love and joy and sending this beautiful, loving energy wherever you are into the ley lines. Uh, it's such a simple thing to go out and spend some time, at least once a week, just to go out into nature. It's really good for you. It's healthy. It's cleansing, it's clearing. People don't realize that the ley lines are also akashic information. So if you want to connect to your psychic abilities, you go out into a ley line, you pick it up much more easily. The mycelium sets off lovely negative ions, which are positively affecting. There's so much to going out in nature and feeling so much better for it. So it's not just to heal the earth, it's to heal people. And spread the word if you can. We want to get as many people as possible into this, or any other kind of meditation, your singing event, anything like that, that is taking back our power and directing it in the way we want it to be directed.
Absolutely beautiful. Well, it's been a lovely start to my day chatting to you, and thank you so much for being on Kind of Sound. So Kind of Sound is out there. You've got a bit of you got something to do which is going to be amazingly fun. Get out into nature. Find those ley lines wherever you are listening to this or watching this in the world. They exist. It is this subtle energy system of the planet, so they are all over the place. And check that incredible website out. Join in. I love it that the 12/12 is on the Thursday as well, because that's going to coincide with our singing. Leylovedown.com. Let's make it happen and keep it on Kind of Sound.